Hey, so I'm outside because I like being out here. It's calm even though it's cold, and the cold keeps me sharp. So I just wanted to talk about myself a little bit because I'm human. A human was here. So look, I wrote this down. Most mind, I might edit some of this out though, but this is like mostly me as a human. I've had it. You'll understand why. So I'm Kiana Marrie, and I'm a '90s baby. I grew up just enough to experience and be conscious of the few years of the '90s that I enjoyed, and I grew up in the 2000s, and I've been making music and creating art since before AI was put into our hands. And I say that partially, I'm looking at myself, but the camera's here. I'm saying that partially joking, but I'm also very serious. Um, like, I know what it's like to create with my hands and pure imagination. Just writing books, like notebooks and notebooks of ideas and all of the things that I love and like to create and world building and spiritual teaching. But like the point is, like when I mention that in this day and age where generated art is so rampant and people are beginning to be hand wavy because they don't want to take the time to figure out if something is AI or not, I want my stance to be clear. Now, we can have a whole conversation about AI, but just know where I stand. It is currently inefficient for our environment and our health, and generated AI I do not with. So, if you use it, doesn't mean I dislike you. I don't hold the same hate to spew at you as you might see on social media. Like, you don't, just me and you. I don't mess with it. I encourage you to use your brain, use what you can to create yourself. So that's where I stand at with it. And when it comes to me mentioning the art part as well, me as an artist, it's not about, when I talk about my art like I'm about to do, it's not about being the first or the best artist. It's about making my mark as a human, a black transgender human being. I am transgender. I'm a black transgender woman. My pronouns are she, they. If you don't like it, just hold on. There we go. I'm a black trans woman. Pronouns are she, they. I look how I look. I sound like I sound. I don't have to present or anything to you to be validated. If you don't like me, just back away. Just back away. That's all you got to do. So anyway, like all of this shows up in me as an artist and as a spiritual person. So look, I said I'm a '90s baby, but in my early life, my artistry and my spirituality, I've talked about it in a presentation I did, but my artistry and my spirituality are interwoven. And early in my life, I learned to play music by ear, being with my grandmother, listening to Young and the Restless and playing it by ear, and then picking up like cadences and rhythms, Law and Order, and all these other different shows, and Matlock, and all these things that come into my mind. But I learned to play by ear, and eventually, like 11, 12, 13 years old, I learned by going through training. I was getting lessons, doing recitals, and eventually I went to a performing arts high school. I got accepted, and that's where I gained a lot of classical knowledge and honed my classical structure. It was not always easy. Some of the teachers were very traditional and very hard-edged for the time, but anyway, I did learn a lot from all of them, and I gained classical training and learned about audio engineering there. And all of this, it fueled me, right? Because in high school, I felt like I was out of place even as an artist because of like my middle, how some people say high school was the worst time of their life? Middle school was mine. So when I went to high school, it was far more open and accepting, but by that point I became a bit hardened. And then toward the end of my high school career, I was like, I don't really know what I want to do. I want to be an artist, but I feel like misunderstood as an artist amongst artists, And the military became like this huge like fascination with me, right? So instead of going straight into the military out of high school, I went to college. I didn't go to the original college I wanted to go to. I ended up going to Point Park and I ended up not going for what I was accepted for. I was accepted for film, ended up switching to criminal intelligence and national security. Learned a lot and said, you know what, this is not for me. I'll just put it like that. And now we're here. You know, this was 2011, 2012, and now we're here. It's a whole lot of, yeah, it was a lot even to learn about it then. So anyway, I switched to mechanical engineering. It was cool, but it wasn't as cool as I thought. And I dropped out of college and then just started working more jobs. Like, I just started working. And I tried college again, you know, went to Art Institute. I learned some good things, but I also realized that I got pretty screwed in the end. If you know, you know. And then just backed away from school for even longer, stayed working jobs, all kinds of jobs. Many of them I wasn't moving up in. So eventually I ended up going back to school. That was when I ended up going back to the school I originally wanted to go to, Full Sail, and I graduated finally. You know, spoiler alert, I graduated with digital cinematography, but during, like, halfway through, I had realized that, yeah, I'm transgender. Like, I was wrestling with it for years beforehand, as early as 2014, and we're talking 2018, I publicly came out, but I didn't start transitioning until 2019. So all of that stuff, I was building, like, I was making art, making music, producing music. I had a very successful indie producer career, producing for independent artists, making income. I made enough to buy my first car unassisted. I was very proud of myself because I was still working really hard at my day-to-day jobs while I was doing that. And I was learning a lot in both lanes of life. But, you know, I'll get more into that in other videos maybe. But basically close to the end of my 20s, I came out as trans, and shortly after, I had my spiritual awakening around 2021-ish. And ever since, I've been moving differently with my creativity. Now, I did give you a lot of nuance in my life because a lot of my life comes full circle. So this is like a seed video. I don't really see myself like a content creator. I don't want to like do it. I don't shade content creation. It's just not what I want to do. I want to, like, this is for me to just pop in and talk about myself and my journey as I see fit, and you'll understand more. Like, my goal is marking my legacy, not for content creation, but small pop-ins, mini documentaries of my artistic work, my spiritual teachings, which I'll get into because I'm a certified yoga instructor and I'm trauma informed. I love learning. But anyway, I'm here as the artist that and the spiritual person that I am. Like, this is probably going to be a fairly raw video. I'll edit out some of the cursing that I do, but I'm trying to keep this condensed for the attention span of most people out there. Like, this is like one of your first videos of probably seeing me. You're like, who the is this? Like, you know. But anyway, so with that being said, I'm doing all of this. This is probably going to be on my YouTube channel. I'm doing all of this from one YouTube channel. I don't want to have many brands. I spent my 20s and most of the 2000s with multiple brands and making money and doing this and this and that. Right now, what I'm doing is curating a space where you as a human can come here, learn something about another human from another human perspective, rather than just doom scrolling. And maybe this will inspire people. Maybe my spiritual practices that I teach will teach you something. And that I'm getting to now. So my spiritual teachings are completely optional. They will be clearly defined. I'm good with the thumbnails. I'm good with the wording. I'm good with discretion at the beginning of my videos. So I need you to know that. Now, what do I mean by my spiritual teachings? I am a trained Kundalini yoga instructor. I spent a year training and I have 300 practicum hours teaching people both on the mat and off the mat. And I keep my practices versatile. I also have trauma-informed practice and gender-informed sensitivity training, so that's part of it. And it's not just because I'm transgender. We literally discuss this. There's a certain approach to certain teachings when we talk about being in our bodies and moving our bodies and being in our minds and being in the present moment, whether you're working with trauma or not. So, about my spiritual teachings, with that being said, I teach Kundalini Yoga and its benefits. The 5 pillars of Kundalini Yoga are mantra, mudra, breath work, meditation, and Kriya. And Kriya, I'll get into all of that later, but know that when I teach you Kundalini, I'm teaching you something to help you heal your nervous system. I'm not telling you what to believe. I do not want to do that. When I speak about my personal beliefs, it will not be during a practice video. It will be during a separate video about, sorry, my battery's dying. It'll be a separate video about spirituality or something. Sorry if the wind chime is bothering you. Maybe it's in tune with me, I don't know, or maybe it's telling me to speed it up. But anyway, I just want you to know that when I do talk about my spiritual things, I'm never pushing anything on you. I don't want to push an agenda. I'm not telling you why you're here on this planet. I'm not telling you about your karmic things. But when we talk about those concepts in other videos separate from practices, they will be very clearly identified, and we will approach it as unbiased as possible. I don't want to make anyone feel alienated more than our own minds can already make us feel, and more than social media can already confuse us, It's a minefield psychologically and physically out there and energetically and everything. So with that being said, it's not just the love and light aspects of spiritual teachings. Like, I'm not going to sell you BS. Like, I'm not actively even selling like courses or nothing. Right now, if I do work with someone, it'll be a one-to-one thing. I want to know what's going on with you. I want to be able to help you with something. So by the time, say you don't want to come to me for weekly sessions, I could give you something to do. Like, okay, do this for 30 days, do this for 21 days. And if you want anything more from me, I'm here. I want to build a sort of high trust between me and whoever I'm interacting with. But I also want to provide you with things so you don't have to necessarily go through that in the dark. That's what my spiritual teachings are. So again, when I talk about more other spiritual things, I'll clearly define that. But just know broadly, I'm coming into spiritual practice and teaching, not so much from a westernized perspective. It's very, I'm relatively paced when I release my content. You might not get everything every single day, every single week. I take time. I read books. Like when I'm teaching mudras right now, this is one of the books that I'm using. I really take my time and go through this. I research it and I cross-reference my sources because I genuinely care for this. I do this for the love of the game. But, the game gotta, the game gives when I give back, that type of deal. So just so I close that spiritual section off, as such, all of my spiritual stuff is completely optional. If you want to come here just for my creative work, which we're about to speak about, then you can come here for that. I already got that stuff here so you can see what you're getting into. Now let's talk about my creative work. Thank you for being with me thus far. I'm almost done. So my creative art. In short, I make music. I do photography. I do short films. You won't see any short films right now. They're on here. I just feel a little self-conscious. They were of me pre-transition. But anyway, I make music. I do photography. I do short films. Regarding industry work, I've done background work, minor acting things. So maybe one day we'll go through those little things if I see myself. I'm not too afraid of showing myself pre-transition, but, you got to build up a little rapport with me. So, this is an opportunity to do that with a human being, So when I say I make music, I have 2 instrumental albums out. They're instrumental albums, beats that I made from the beginning of my music production career to roughly around about a year ago. And they sort of catalog sonically catalog my growth as a producer. These are beats that I shopped around to major artists and independent artists. The beats, they're completely mine, copyrighted, and I said, well, if nobody's gonna buy them, I might as well copyright my stuff, publish my stuff. I learned a lot of stuff from the industry, and I just said, screw it, I'm releasing it. And I didn't do this big old marketing thing. I don't have that right now, but I also didn't really want to do it. I marketed the way I wanted to. I talked about it on my Instagram. There is some spiritual and personal reference to some of the tracks. If that's something y'all ever want me to talk about and you see this and hear my music or whatever, yeah, we could do that. I could analyze my stuff. I could show you how I did stuff, made things when I feel comfortable, you know. I don't want to just exploit myself too much and turn myself into a goddamn content farm. But anyway, yeah, I'm working on 2 new albums. These are a bit more personal because one of them is a retro album. I'm inspired by a lot of 80s and 90s music, but I really like artists, electronic synthwave, retrowave like Home, Randy Goff. Shout out to you. Your music got me through a lot of tough times, and it got me through so many journeys while working my ass off, day and night, driving all across the state. So anyway, the second album is a bit more of me tapping into music that inspired me in my childhood, that No Limit, that Cash Money type stuff. And I'm inspired by the way they built their business, because back in that day, they really did it from the ground up and like built their own LLCs and doing like their DBAs, they're doing business as, and I learned how to lock that down myself. And this is me building my own legacy, one that streaming services and whatever cannot take away from me, and that I can hold as my own sovereign being. So if you want to do my work, understand I know my masters, I know my publishing, I own my masters, I own my publishing, I have all of that stuff set, and I'm well insulated. Look, I learned a lot from the film and the music industry, being as small as I was, okay? That's all I'm going to say. And I'm proud of that. Now, my photography and stuff, it's up on my website. I have my portfolio up. It's fairly interactive. You can see my work. All of it is my photography. In many of the photos, I have it identified with camera I'm using, Sony a6400, Canon 90D, Canon EOS Rebel T6, Sony FS5 Mark II. Those are the cameras I got, and I got a couple of lenses. So my work is fairly diverse, but there you can see the inner workings of my mind and how I see myself as a cinematographer. Now, there's a whole different thing as to why it's difficult to make films right now. You know, that takes money, time, and resources, and right now that stuff is kind of scarce for indie people. But just know that fire is still there, even through my mania. And that also ties into this big part. My biggest projects are world building. So I keep it tight-lipped, but for 13 years, actually, yeah, a little bit more than that, but for a long time, on paper, on digital notes, world maps, drawings, chapter breakdowns, first draft novels, I've been building a universe that I'm really proud of. And it's in its final stages, and I'm gonna, I like to make sure this work is real nice and cohesive before I release it. So just know, I basically am writing all 5 books of the first universe before I release the first book. But that's just how I work, and it's working for me right now. And I really can't wait to share it with people who want something new and authentic. I'm not going to say it's the next new Star Wars or the next replacement for Harry Potter for queer people who feel betrayed by J.K. Rowling. I'm not going to say it's your next favorite novel series, but I put my heart, my blood, my sweat, and my tears in it. My trifecta, my own personal triple goddess in this. You know, spiritually for me, as mad as I get with spirituality sometimes, I really come through. And I'll say this, Morgan has she doesn't coddle, but she's been getting me through this, and I really believe in this work. So when I bring it to you one day, I hope this is, I hope you stick around if you're interested. I don't have anything to sell you, okay? This is just me, a 20-minute video of a black trans woman, like, just going off about everything and saying, screw it, screw the media training, screw the cordialness. This is just me as an artist, because anything can happen at any day, and I was here as a human. So if you're interested, keep an eye out, share, even support, I don't know, do the weird stuff or whatever like you feel. Just know I was here. All right, it's getting kind of cold, and I want to go write, and I got some other stuff to work on. So thank you for being with me.